Hi, it's Miss House. And since you've had two tests, I want to go over with you how the third test and the final exam can influence your score in the course. So you have three tests. You've taken two. Those are 16% each. And there's a third test out that's also 16%. The final exam is 30%. So those two scores alone are 46% of your overall score. That's almost half of your score, so a lot of points out. Now, you've been working homework and quizzes all along. Those are only 10 and 12, but together they're 22%, so they do make up more than a test, so think of them sort of as a fourth test. If you've missed any homework or quizzes starting on Friday, even though you should still be prepping for test 3, starting on Friday, you're going to have access to go back and correct any of those, and you'll have up until right before the final exam week starts. So you'll have a week or so to get those done. So make sure you go back and correct any homework you've missed or redo quizzes. Only the highest score counts. Now, once I enter scores in here, it's going to go ahead and calculate. So it'll calculate the 48% for the test, the 30 for the exam, and it's going to display your points here. And this red 0 is going to return, it's going to turn into your overall score. All right. And of course, we use a regular grading scale here. So an 89.4 is a B. It's not an A. You have to have an 89.5, just like it says here. All right. So let's just look at some scenarios. Let's say that you have a 67 and a 43, and you have a homework average of 83 and a quiz average of 67. So that's what you have so far. Now we're going to speculate, and notice you're only going to type in these yellow cells. Don't type anywhere else. You'll mess up the formulas. So let's speculate what a good test 3 and final exam can do. Let's start with a low test 3. Let's start with a 55 on that and a 55 on the final. Okay, so now you can see that this person's average would be 59.2. So that's an F. You need a 59.5 to get to a D. I have to cut it off somewhere, so that's where it gets cut off. Plus, I'm going to drop some homeworks, drop a quiz, and as you have noticed, I've been curving each test based on some of the stuff that you guys are missing. Now, let's look at, this looks like a pretty bad scenario, so let's look at some better scenarios. Let's say that you really go through that exam review and you're ready for that exam and you make a 75. So a 75 on the exam is still a D. However, we're going to go into test 2 and that's going to become a 75. So in that scenario, there you are, you pass. Now, let's say you work hard to get ready for the exam by redoing some homework. So let's say you get that up to a 95 and you get your quizzes up to an 85. Well, that means, look, your average is higher, so you can make lower on the final exam. So let's try a 70 on the final so that the 43, still the lowest test, becomes a 70. And so look, you still have a 71. So if you get those homework scores up, final exam, let's try 68. Lowest test will become a 68. And let's see. That's going to be a 70.8. So I can, or 70.5. I can still go a little lower. I'm going to try 67 for the final and a 67 for test 2, because remember it was originally a 43. So when I go down, there's your 70 right there. And you could make even a little bit lower, and you should continue to play around. 66, 66. Okay, so there's your 69.5. Okay, so look, all you would have to do is make at least a 55 on test 3, and then you can make 66 on, look, none of these are passing. That's not passing. These high homeworks can pull you up. All right, let's run a different one. Let's say you got a 55, a 42, and let's say you work on this last test and you get that up to a 75. Okay, let's say your homeworks are at 81 and your quizzes are down at 43. Okay, now let's say for the final exam, you want to make something higher than 42 because your goal is to replace that 42. So let's say you get 52. All right, so let's see where you are. You're only at 56. Okay, so when I replace the 42 with the 52, you're only at 58, right? So what are we going to do? You're going to go back and you get that homework score up to 94. Let's get that quiz average. That's 12%, almost a test. That's really hurting you. Let's get that up to 75. Okay, now let's see what we got. We're in the D territory now, which is better than an F on your transcript. Absolutely. It's going to be 1 quality point, or 1 point for your grade point average. But let's see if we can even get that up. So you could put 100 here and 100 here, because you could do that if you devote time. But I'll tell you, if all you do is devote time to get the score up but not pay attention, it's not worth it. Okay, you should be working on the final exam review instead of doing that. So even hundreds there don't get you to a passing grade. So we've got to improve this final exam because that's going to replace this test 2. So I'm just going to bump it up. Let's go to a 60 and let's replace the low test 2 with a 60. And now I'm passing. Okay. Is it unrealistic to get 100 on homework? Probably not. On the quizzes, a lot harder. Let's put a 90 there. So you're not quite high enough. So you're going to need to get a 61. And a 61, let's see what happens. I'm at 69.6. So everything is not lost. Even if your test scores aren't great at this point, you have a test 3, a final exam, and the opportunity for homework and quizzes to be improved. Now I'm going to drop 5 homeworks. So if there are 5 homeworks that are low, don't even work on them. Work on test 3 in the final exam. If there's 1 quiz that's low, don't work on it. It's going to get dropped. Focus on the final exam and the test 3 because that's going to affect your grade a whole lot more, especially if you have a low test. As I mentioned in the email, if you want to run this, I'm going to post this grade calculator. It's in Excel. You have to download it. Run your scenario. All of these will be blank. Just put your numbers in. If you want me to confirm it for you, what you got, I will be happy to run the scenario for you. Okay, so you can try it yourself and then ask me if you're not sure. But this is going to tell you exactly what you need if you play around. And again, remember, test 1 and 2 can't be changed. Test 3, you can predict. Final exam, you can predict. Homework and quizzes, you can predict. 5 homeworks drop, so 5 low homeworks, don't worry about them. Okay, unless it's the test 3 stuff and you're doing it to get ready for test 3. And the 1 low quiz, like an early quiz, don't worry about it, okay, because it's going to get dropped. The most important thing is that review for the final test. That's the review for test 3 and the review for the final exam. And in case you've not been paying attention and you haven't been making the half sheet of notes to help you on each one of these, you want to make sure that you use the reviews to do that. So touch base with me if you have any questions about this.